The last one of the triennium, but this is the August meeting, one more to go, I believe. So, welcome everyone, and councillors, staff, and of course members of the public. Nice to see you here. Just checking we're on live stream now. We'll go? Okay. All right, I'd like to call for apologies, please. I know we have one from Councillor Truman. Can I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Cousins, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Just the councillors make sure their speakers are on and nice and loud, please, with the so people down the back can hear. Item number 1 is confirmation of the council minutes, the ordinary council meeting on the 2nd of August. Do we have any points of clarification or matters arising from those minutes, please? No, doesn't appear to be. We will like to have a mover for those minutes, please. Moved by Councillor Boddy, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 2 is a receipt of the Turangi Tongariro Community Board meeting held on the 12th of July. If there's any matters arising those minutes, we'll go through these and then we'll move them all on block at the end. Matters arising or typos out of the TT Community Board. No? Okay. We'll go to the second Audit and Risk Committee on the 18th of July, which is on 2 bar 9. 2 bar 9. Any matters arising from those? No? Okay. Mangakino Paokani, representative group. Taupo Airport Authority Committee. Which was on the 19th of July. Very good minute taking by the look of it all. And then the last one, which is the Turangi Tongariro Community Board meeting on the 9th of August. Councillor Stewart.
I just have a correction on 2 bar 22 on community issues. The Lions Company have recently appointed a new chairperson. That chairperson is not Brent Norris, he's the CEO. The new chairperson of the trust is Mark Darrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, if I could have a mover for all those minutes, please. Moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Christowski. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 3, funding request by Go Tongariro. We have Mr. Nick Carroll, Policy Manager, to present this item. Good afternoon, Nick.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. You will have noted in the minutes earlier that you received the Go Tongariro presented to the Community Board in July. They presented a proposal to develop a plan and sought some funding. That proposal's now come forward to you for consideration of that funding. Since that proposal was presented to the board, we've worked with Go Tongariro to clarify exactly what the scope of their work is and what they want that funding for. What you'll see in the paper that I presented is the original proposal detailed and then the revised proposal. The recommendation to you is that funding is made available in 2 parts. The first part is funding for some economic analysis, and that's economic analysis that both Go Tongariro and Council can use for our future planning. And the second part is that funding is made available to assist Go Tongariro to engage independent expertise to develop their plan. That's all I intended to say at this point. Happy to take the rest of the item as read, and I'm very conscious we've got members of Go Tongariro here who may wish to speak to you about their proposal in detail.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Just before you go, is there any questions of Nick regarding this? Councillor Christowski.
Thank you. I'm just reading through the minutes, and I noticed that on 2 bar 1, when Tongariro Community Board had its meeting on the Tuesday the 12th of July, under the presentation it says under the first paragraph, the feasibility study on the Turangi CBD Mall. But then on the next paragraph, on the last line, it says develop a strategic economic growth plan for Turangi. Can you just enlarge for me exactly what it is? Because the two are, in my way of thinking, are quite succinctly different and have different outcomes as well. So
I would definitely agree with you. I think the two are, or could definitely be different, have different outcomes. I think it's probably most appropriate for Go Tongariro when they speak to you to outline exactly what they believe the detail of that plan will be. But I certainly know that the economic assessment that we've talked about in the paper is intended to provide answers about what the future economic demands are likely to be in the Turangi situation, what are going to be those drivers for the economy going forward, what are going to be the land requirements that we have, not only in the CBD but also in the industrial area. So that's what the economic analysis will cover. And I think Go Tongariro is probably in a better place to talk about exactly what their intended plan will cover as well.
just one more question, if I may. Some of the facts and figures that you'll be seeking presumably have already been done once before in the not so distant past when we looked at Tongariro once before, Turangi once before we did the mall upgrade and the turtle pool and all that kind of thing. Is there any of that still around and useful and even pertinent?
Yes and no. There was a lot of work that was done down in the Turangi area as part of the initial work around the Turangi and Southern Settlement Structure Plan. There was no economic analysis that was done at that time, so that's definitely a hole that we've had in the past and we continue to have in terms of our future decision making as a council. And that's what the economic analysis is meant to fill, that hole. Having said that, there was still a lot of perception work done at that stage around where does the community see their future, how do they see the town moving forward in an economic sense as well as a social sense. So there'll be all of that perception work and some urban design work that we can carry forward into future planning.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Councillor Boddy.
Ms Carroll, can I just clarify the two resolutions before us? What's your interpretation of an independent economic analysis?
It's an economic analysis produced by an economist who is independent from council.
And who would appoint that economist?
The intention at this point, having talked to Go Tongariro, is that council would engage the economist and seek that advice. Now, the brief would be prepared jointly with Go Tongariro to ensure that they and council received the necessary information that we needed to go forward. I'm very conscious that the planning that council does for Turangi Town Centre and the wider Turangi area may have slightly different focus from what Go Tongariro is seeking to do in the immediate future. But that's why it's important that we work together collaboratively to get the best out of that economic analysis for the ratepayer.
Thanks, Chairman. I'll wait for the debate to continue and just maybe come back on the word independent. Thank you.
Mr Carroll, just a clarification on Go Tongariro. Just there, so they report to us once a year. What is their funding stream again?
So Go Tongariro have a contract with council. They're partly funded by council. That contract says a couple of things in terms of reporting. It's section 6 of that contract. The first point is that there's a requirement to meet on a 6-weekly basis. That's been taking place down in Turangi and it has involved governance. So that's very much a general progress update. The second part of that reporting requirement is around the presentation of an annual report. The last one was presented 29th of September 2015. The next one, funnily enough, is going to be presented next month, 27th of September 2016. So you'll have an opportunity to look at that as part of that process in that meeting.
Okay, so report to us once a year.
Yeah, so those are the reporting requirements, a very micro day-to-day progress report on a 6-weekly basis, and then your financial reporting and progress reporting against the requirements you've put in that contract, and that takes place on an annual basis.
Through the chair, I'm also the liaison officer for council and community board for Go Tongariro, so I've reported back to council when there's been things of, it's been an issue that we need to be aware of. So that has happened as well.
Thank you, Councillor Cousins. Okay, thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Sorry, through the chair.
Councillor Jollins.
Sorry, just a question. It's not working, right? Just a question, Mr. Carroll. The scope of the work that is to be anticipated with a strategic review, can you give us an indication of what you think that will cover? Because obviously you've got a price for it, so you must have an idea of what the scope will be.
Are you referring to the economic analysis?
No, the strategic economic growth plan.
I think, as I mentioned earlier to Councillor Krastowski, that's probably a question better directed towards Go Tongariro. I know they've had some discussions with some consultants who work in that field around the sort of plan that could be delivered and what it would cover off. And that's why you'll see that the resolution talks about a price up to $55,000. The expectation is that it could well be delivered for less than that sum.
So the expectation from council is that would that scope cover a review of our infrastructure as well?
No. Now, the study may well consider what infrastructure is in place, and that information is publicly available, but it wouldn't, we wouldn't expect it to consider our wholesale review of the infrastructure requirements going forward.
But surely if you're enabling economic environment and the council's responsible for helping provide that environment, we'd want to cover that off in the scope.
Yeah. One of the challenges that council and Go Tongariro face are trying to plan for the future of a town in a dynamic environment. I think we'll all accept that the ideal would be to sit down one Sunday afternoon, draft up the perfect plan, and then go ahead and implement it. Unfortunately, that doesn't take place. We have requirements under the long-term plan in terms of rolling out our work program. We have asset management plans which have to be updated gradually. There are other tools such as the district plan which can take several years to put into place. So what we're looking at is an ongoing or a rolling process, I guess, of aligning both the planning of DGLT, EGLT, Go Tongariro and Council to ensure that as partners in the space of Turangi, that we've got a consistent plan and strategy going forward.
Sure, but if the ultimate gain is to work out what's best for Turangi, shouldn't we be looking at ourselves warts and all and just understanding what it is that we need to do to move forward rather than trying to say it has to fit in what we've currently got?
The expectation is that that's exactly what will happen. Now, Go Tongariro will look at that from a particular perspective, particularly a strong economic perspective in the development of their plan. Council similarly will look at that over the coming years with regard to our infrastructure, with regard to the way we manage public space in Turangi, with regard to the way we manage our own service delivery down there, the likes of the eyesight and the library as an example. We'll also look at that with regard to other tools that we've got, such as land use requirements and the district plan in particular in that space. So there are a whole basket of different tools and different perspectives, and I think the key thing going forward is that we're working collaboratively with the other partners to ensure that as we put each of those pieces of the puzzle into place, we're doing it in a cohesive way rather than a divisive way.
I would be quite interested to understand Go Tongariro's perspective, because I think it's really important, whatever we do with this plan, that it has the buy-in of all the key stakeholders in the community and council, because we will get the best results. Thank you.
No, I'm fine. It's been answered. Thanks, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Carroll. I just wonder, when you talk about the scope of the project, are DGLT considered, if the recommended resolution we're part, are DGLT considered as part of that as far as destination management goes?
We've had quite a lot of discussion with Go Tongariro and the shaping up of their thoughts around this planning work going forward, and they've been very open in acknowledging that this needs to involve engagement with other partners.
Great.
They've got a very strong link, obviously, through to Enterprise Great Lake Taupo, but also Destination Great Lake Taupo. And I think everyone would openly acknowledge that tourism is a key component of that economy going forward. So having DGLT as part of the ongoing discussion and the development of that plan is going to be critical, just as it'll be critical having council involved, given our public land ownership and infrastructure provision in that town.
And it's could be funded by ratepayers' money. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Carroll. Yeah. Mr. Wayne Smith, would you like to come forward, the chairman of Go Tongariro? And Christine? Come and sit down, Christine, if you like.
Yeah.
Cool.
Got to have company.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And welcome.
Yeah.
So the floor is yours, Wayne. So.
Thank you, Your Worship, the Mayor, councillors. I'd just like to read you a pre-prepared statement that we've put together and just really outline our rationale behind what we're trying to achieve today. Go Tongariro, first of all, Go Tongariro would like to acknowledge and thank the Taupo District Council for this opportunity to talk briefly in support of our funding submission that's before you. Go Tongariro also wishes to acknowledge the assistance and advice from Nick Carroll and the staff within TDC in putting this submission together on our behalf. And we would also acknowledge the support and suggestions of the Turangi Tongariro Community Board, who without their assistance in the beginning, this most probably would not have started. And also obviously the community of Turangi as well, because they have a vested interest in this. And for supporting us here today. Thank you. Turangi, the little town that should have, but didn't. Some say that Turangi town centre is pretty shabby, a bit of a ghost town, businesses are closing, nothing to attract the visitors into town, and they say Turangi has not a lot to offer. Those are generally feedback that we've had from various review sites, people that have come through Turangi. So that's their perception of what they see. And Turangi was a town with a great future, which is now behind it. So that gives you an indication of where, as a community, we're coming from and what we're trying to improve going into the future. However, Go Tongariro believes, and recent trends would suggest, that Turangi does have a future. But that future needs direction, guidance, and an orchestrated implementation of an independent strategy plan to achieve the greater success. A town's vibrancy is about the dynamic of the whole community and the area, not just the state of the town centre. So it's not just the town centre that we're trying to improve, it is the community as a whole. And comments earlier through when Nick was talking is that it is very important that we communicate and with the community of Turangi. In the absence of any current economic development plan for Turangi, there is a compelling need for such a strategy as Go Tongariro proposes, which will provide the pathway forward. This is the direction that the community of Turangi is now demanding. The document before you outlines Go Tongariro's strategy to achieve the desired economic growth for Turangi. This is an opportunity for the current Taupo District Council to send a strong and convincing message to the community of Turangi that by supporting Go Tongariro's application for funding, TDC recognises the importance of this independent study and the results that it will provide for the community of Turangi. Thank you. Questions?
Great. Thank you, Wayne. Christine, did you want to chip anything in at this stage? Listen up. All right. Okay. Questions. Councillor Krastowski.
Thank you for that, Wayne. I just come back to the point that I raised earlier, and I noticed that on the revised proposal, the fourth bullet point once again says, present a SWOT analysis of Turangi's town centre with a view to establishing the future positioning of the town centre. Identify key influences. From my perspective, I would like to think and hope that we are not just concentrating on the Turangi town centre as indicated on here.
You're quite correct. And that's an assumption. As I say, getting the wording right in over the two meetings and numerous emails that we've had to get to the proposal that's before you at the moment, obviously things like that slip through. But it is a community-based initiative, and it is addressing the community as a whole. Strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats are really what we're trying to get out there to get an action plan together that would then give us a pathway to go forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Cousins.
Through the chair, I just wanted to say to the council and to acknowledge all the Turangi people that are here today, and Tonganui from Chairman of the Community Board. This shows how much this means to our community. I don't think I've ever seen our town so united over a single goal before, and it's very heartening to see. I'd also like to acknowledge Christine and Wayne from Go Tongariro, who have put this together. Christine for her diligence. She did everything that was asked of her of council and above, and she has followed through on that, so Christine needs to be commended. I had set a question for Christine. In terms of the review, it is my understanding from the brief, and Wayne, you can answer this as well, that we want it to be 360. We want it to be a 360-degree view of ourselves, an audit. Would that be correct? Self-audit. To find out where we are, that's looking at all our warts and all. Thank you.
Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you, Christine and Wayne, and yes, you do a great job down at our southern end. The figure of 55k, I'm just wondering, being budgeted expenditure, how have you come about that this is the right amount?
When we started to embark on this project, we tested the market and regarding what it would cost to try and get some form of feasibility study, strategy plan, call it what you like, drawn up and presented in a form that we could then work with on a short to medium term time frame. And we got 3 indications from the market of what that cost would be, and it varied between $35,000 to $55,000, just depending on whether you took the whole 9 yards of the of what was available, of the recommendation. So that was really the market price that we put into the submission.
So you're quite comfortable if this was to proceed?
And we've checked that, and as I say, there's opportunities to work collaboratively as Mr. Carroll has outlined in his talk, that by getting some of that information, the data, on a collaborative basis, that could take away some of the expenditure that we're looking at. But that's still as a yet to be defined an amount.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes, I think that sounds like a really great idea, and I like the idea of Zane's, the way he said it's a warts and all, looking at everything right through the whole township, everyone. Are you going to involve members of the community as well?
Most definitely.
As stakeholders, including business owners, building owners? Have you gone through that?
We've had loose discussions at this stage, because really we had a plan to actually do this prior to making a submission, but obviously for us to progress funding or the lack of funding would mean the success or not the success of the project. So we decided to put the funding application ahead of getting a working group put together, and that would involve members of the community, stakeholders, and the Turangi Tongariro Community Board to actually get a set of guidelines put together before we start to go further afield. But we would envisage in having public meetings with the community as a whole to get them on board.
It's vital to get,
It is.
particularly the town centre, I think it's vital to get some building owners as part of this, so that they buy into it and can see what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And it's not just about talk; it's about actually action, making something happen.
Yes. Oh, most definitely. And this is what I say, there's been numerous occasions in the past where things are sat on a shelf and gather dust. Well, this is one project that, as far as we, Go Tongariro, we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chair, sorry, just on that, Cousins. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. This is a defining document for us, for our town, and that's why it's so crucial.
Yeah.
We're trying to take control of our future, and I think that the community. You talk about stakeholders. I say half the gallery would love to be as part of that group, that working group.
Excuse me for turning around. God.
Thank you.
Okay,
very
Councillor
quickly.
Body.
Just going back to who's going to be engaged, if we look at 3(2), it states quite clearly that engagement with the community and specific stakeholders, so I think you've covered that. But I'm also interested in taking up Councillor Krasowski's comments on 3(1). It actually states your ability as Go Tongariro, and I'll just read the words, to be able to demonstrate that it's a clear plan to support the delivery of economic growth. And you're talking about the area of touring and not just the town centre. Wayne, option 1 states Go Tongariro to prepare the strategic document. What are your views on how this document should be put together? Should it be Go Tongariro by itself, council by itself, or as Mr Carroll said, a joint effort?
I think it has to be a joint effort. We don't have the resource or the ability, to be fair, the resource that you see is presently sitting in front of you between Christine and myself. So it is imperative that we have those relationships both with Taupo District Council, EGLT, DGLT, the Community Board and the stakeholders in the community of Turangi. It's something that we can't do by ourselves, so we need to have that input.
I'll just follow that up, it's my line of thinking. If you had a completely independent person doing the report
Yep.
that had no tie with the council or yourselves, do you think you may get a more warts and all assessment of what Turangi may or may not need?
It's a possibility. It is a possibility, although I would like to think that if you do have a consultant, they would tend to, if there was something that was quite obvious, you would get it. Doesn't matter what side of the fence they were on, so to speak.
Thank you.
Just one last question for
Councillor
me.
Donaldson.
Thank you. Sorry, this is not working today. I guess it's seeking some assurances that the report that you're going to do, I guess, is going to be all-encompassing, because very much some of the key words I see in this proposal talk about economic indicators, but true sustainable planning for a future includes social, economic, cultural and environmental factors. So you'll be looking at all of those. Is that the intention with this report?
Yes, it is. There's things that obviously Go Tongariro can act upon, and there will be no doubt parts of the report that would be better suited for council to pick up on. But that's for the future. We don't know precisely what we're going to get until we get it. But certainly it will be all-encompassing.
Oh, no, that's great, because I mean, I go back and I look at your charter for when you were originally set up, and that's all about empowering yourselves and the community to actually take the lead on this.
Yes.
So I would like to make sure that as council we don't slow you down on that process and let you make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
That's right. No, carry on.
Councillor Williamson.
Through the chair. Thank you, Wayne, Christine. Obviously, I also see a collaborative approach, for the, through the obviously process through the 10-year plan. There's obviously guidelines through there, but we also have to be sort of smart and be quick to respond to change and opportunities. And obviously, a healthy district includes a healthy touring as well as Pankakino and Taupo. So
Yes.
You do good things to
without
the whole economic growth plan.
Yeah, without doubt. And I think the community of Turangi seems to have, for whatever reason, seems to think it's been shortchanged in the past, and that's in the past now. We're moving forward, looking forward. So this is a good opportunity from the responses that we've had thus far from the community to actually galvanise the community together in something that will be achievable.
Very good. All steady. Councillor Hickling.
So you've read the officer's report,
Yes,
I take it?
yes,
There's 3 options there.
yes.
Which is your
I'm
preferred?
not particularly keen about option 3.
That's why I'm asking.
Yes, and I would like to have that noted.
I thought we could delete that.
Thank you. Certainly, option 1 was the option that we put forward in our original submission, and that's just a statement of fact. Option 2, I would suggest, is also very workable. So really option 1 or option 2, but not option 3. Thank you.
No.
Councillor Krastowski.
Thank you. My final question is that in all of the documentation that I have read, I haven't come across any timelines per se. Can you give me an indicative idea as to when you're trying to and hoping to achieve something for the next phase, so to speak?
We originally had a timeline in the very beginning of somewhere in the vicinity of 4 to 6 months to get the actual report done or the strategy put together. And but I would suggest certainly within 12 months, I would like to think that it would be well entrenched by then.
So that if there were any requirements for future funding, it could be incorporated in the next long-term plan.
Yeah, and that's why I say there will no doubt be items that will drop out of the strategy that we're looking for that may well fit and fall into the long-term plan. And so that's always an option.
Councillor Cousins?
No, I'm fine.
Just, so I suppose notwithstanding any further discussion, on the understanding that you'll be doing sound reporting back to community board and through council, and that you'll be working collaboratively with council, and that it's a 360-degree review of our situation, I'd like to move the recommended resolution of option 2.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right, just like that. Any other comment? I think well done, and thank you for your application here, and obviously the supporters here today. It's wonderful to see see all the people from Turangi up here, and I think there's a lot of nodding going around the room. So we're more than happy to support this proposal. I think it is a defining document that could represent the future. So with that being the case, it's been moved by Councillor Cousins and seconded by Councillor Stewart. And I think no one wants to speak against the motion.
At your own peril.
All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 4.
Voting papers will be sent out shortly. Voting papers.
Okay, item number 4, Mr. Dennis Lewis, Asset Manager, Solid Waste and Stormwater, request to extension of Turangi and Omori Refuse Transfer Station. So Turangi and Omori don't go yet. We've got something else on here. Okay, Mr. Lewis.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors. You're going to see a little bit of me this afternoon.
Yes.
You might be sick of me by the time I've finished.
Just find me some roads.
I'll take the item as read and ask for any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Lewis? No, we're all a bit starstruck.
No, I've just got a, yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question, Dennis, and it was more a philosophical discussion, was that we seem to have a lot of contract extensions coming up for a variety of different types of services. And one of the reasons why we don't go out and re-tender is because of the costs, obviously, of re-tendering on individual projects. Is there any point in time where maybe we should try and align some of this work so that when we do need to go out, or is that just... It just got me thinking, because I seem to see quite a few of these coming through. I'm wondering if there's a smarter way we can manage it together. Pose the question. I'm not asking for an answer right now, but...
I've probably got quite a detailed answer for you because it's tied up in both the service that you're seeking, so different contractors are delivering different sorts of services. And I have mentioned before in the chamber about putting tension on to contractors, so rather than put out a 5-year contract or a 7-year contract, we reduce the time frame and then add some additional years on to keep that tension in for performing, and that's typically what you're seeing. Certainly one of the easier ways of going about it is to just put out a 5-year contract or something of that nature, but then you tend to lose the tension in performance.
Yeah, I wasn't proposing that we might extend our contracts for longer terms, but was rather they all seem to be coming up at similar times, and
I'm not sure that there would be any benefit gained because, again, with different suppliers, you're still going to have different tenders. So the cost of producing this tender and say the one following are still going to be fairly similar costs irrespective of what time you'd.
Okay.
Yes.
No, it just begged the question because I've seen quite a few come through recently, and I understand the idea of tension that works for me.
Ordinarily, with these sorts of requests, you would get them spread out during the year, but because of the election cycle
New financial.
and the new financial year, the need to know early enough if we're going to have to go out to tender, then we need to plan that. So you've tended to compress the time over which we're bringing these to your attention.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
Councillor Hickling?
Dennis, what's the driving factors for the increase in the contract?
That's for this one is primarily cost escalation over the term of the contract.
When you say cost escalation, is that
That's
petrol or is it wages or?
typically with these term contracts we provide for cost escalation, and that's usually based on a formula using the CPI or something else. And within the conditions of contract, there's a fairly complex formula for working out cost fluctuations, and that's really put in there to minimise the risk. If you put out a contract, say for 3 or 5 years, and you don't allow for cost escalations, then the contractor is going to take a punt on what's going to happen, and so they'll build that into the contract. If you tie that into a known formula, then you're taking that risk out of the contract.
Yeah, I just noticed that the next sort of 3 items, I think, there's an increase of around about 200,000 on each contract, give and take a few dollars.
That's the year.
That's for the year, yeah. But it is an increase in that.
Through the chair, on this particular one, it's gone up from 188 to 196, which is actually only a 4% increase over 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 188 per year, it's going up to 190, so it's 10
Not
grand.
the full 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I guess the point he makes is it's still more than the rate of inflation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be 4%.
Over 3 years.
Yeah, just through the chair, just for due diligence more than anything, I suppose, just with, when you do these extensions on existing contracts, are there contractual obligations under the new health and safety?
Yeah, that's fully covered under the respective tenders, yes.
So any cost escalation, they will include any addition, okay, thank you.
Councillor Christowski?
Lastly, following on the same theme, particularly on Councillor Jolin's ones, is that looking ahead is that organisations said that we are aligned to such as BOCLES and LES and various regional things. Is there any future benefit in joining up those bigger contracts so we can extrapolate a better negotiated price that whole region has?
That's always a consideration. One of the things that we need to be mindful as a district is when you start agglomerating contracts, you start reducing the contractor pool. You will have seen, and we've noticed it with NZTA reducing the contracts that have been serviced in the Taupo region from 3 down to 1. 2 contractors have gone. So then that's less contractors available to price for work locally. So it's weighing up what the benefit of getting a better pricing potentially against reducing competition. And that's something that you've got to consider.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Councillor Williamson?
Just on the point of regarding the rate of inflation with regard to the increases, would that perhaps be more relevant to apply the local government cost index, or not necessarily the rate of inflation?
It's a 4% increase over.
Yeah, but over 3 years. But
1 point something a year, which is probably inflation. So.
Maggie?
I'm coming from this end of the lake. I actually would like to move the suggested resolution because also knowing the Omori and the Turangi transfer stations and the work the staff are doing down there, they're kept really well. It's working, so I am quite happy to move this resolution.
Who is the contract, actually?
Metallic sweeping.
All right, been moved by councillor Stewart, seconded by councillor Christowski. Recommended resolution there. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 5, street litter and recycling bin collection.
Your Worship, this is a contract within the Taupo Township region. I will take the item as read and take any questions.
Councillor Boddy?
Mr Chairman, when I read this agenda item, I noted that on page 6(2) it talked about 300,000 out of our current budget for 16-17, and the current budget is 200,000. I wrote to Mr Lewis over the issue, and Mr Lewis replied, and apparently there is, so what I'd like to do is see what our renewals are. If you've got 1.9 million, you take off 200,000. We've got, sorry?
Wrong paper.
Wrong paper.
Number 5.
Five, sorry. Moved and passed.
You have a question, Mr Lewis?
At least you know what it is for
There's
next
a suggested resolution there. Moved by councillor Park.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to move it. I think they do a fantastic job.
And I believe it was seconded by councillor Harvey.
Thank you.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 6.
Your Worship, Poipi Road widening.
I was just having a practice run.
Cover the renewals, Devin. Cover the renewals.
Yeah, what was
I would take the item as read, but I would just point out on page 6(2), under the financial considerations annual plan, we talk there of budget of 300,000 being within the 2016-17 land transport program. What that budget is made up of is 200,000 of widening that's specifically identified in the long-term plan, and the additional 100k is for renewals, as we did with Poipi Road last year. When we do the widening, there's often components of drainage renewal or pavement renewal, so that funding is in there, and that comes out of the $2.5 million worth of renewal funding that's allocated annually for roading renewals.
That was what my question was.
councillor Park?
Yes, thank you, Mr Lewis. Just with this item in number 7, both the engineers' estimates are quite light compared to the tenders, but they're both for widening work. So is that because of materials or?
A combination of things. I guess one of the challenges when you're preparing an engineer's estimate is to get the right amount. We look at what's been happening in the market, what sort of previous pricing we're getting, and sometimes the engineer's estimate's not quite what the market is currently producing. Often I would say to my guys, if that's what the price is, perhaps you're offering to do it for that price.
Well, that's where I was sort of going.
Yeah.
So, but those actual engineers' estimates aren't the amounts allocated in the budget
No,
for these projects?
no.
That's cool, thank you.
Okay.
Mr Lewis, what was
Councillor Boddy.
input of Transit New Zealand in this widening program? And
NZTA are funding this 51%.
And
Yes,
and just a
councillor
question
Harvey?
we've asked on several occasions, no local companies. Is that because they're not around? Or they're not competitive? Or
It's probably because they're all busy at the moment. Yeah.
right,
Um,
they're not wondering.
There are no specific contractors out there that deal just in roading matters. There are costs associated with building roads in terms of health and safety because you're operating in an operating environment. If otherwise you could be building subdivisions, and there's a fair amount of that work going on at the moment. But typically these types of work attract contractors that specialise in roading works, and that's what you're seeing in the tenders here.
This particular tenderer had completed the previous work for us too, hadn't they?
That's correct.
Yeah, to a very good standard.
Yes.
All right, okay, suggested resolution there, moved by councillor Stewart, seconded by councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Item number 7, Broadlands Road area-wide treatment.
Your worship, I'll take the item as read. I just advise further, like for the Poipi Road, the budget is allocated out of the transport or roading renewals budget of 2.5 million.
Okay. Straightforward there too.
Comment to make, really, through the chair, just on 7/1, where it's the tender prices range from 314 to 498. That's massive.
It is. Not sure why that is. It can be many things. It can be that someone is putting in a tender price just to show some interest. It can be we'll put in if we're busy, we'll put in a price. If we win it.
Can I ask, were the other two, were they somewhere in the middle, or were they?
There's a spread right through that, yeah.
Just through the chair, question for Mr Lewis, and it goes back to councillor Park's comment on the previous one. This one is quite significantly over the engineer's estimate by about 30%.
Correct.
What's happening there?
I don't have a specific answer other than what I provided for the previous one. It's really about an assessment of what the market rates are typically in providing base course, and it can depend on how a contractor's pricing to get that base course, where he gets it from, what price he has to pay to get that.
Sure, no, I just want it noted because it seems it's quite substantial in this
You were
case.
talking to that engineer, were you, Mr Lewis?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just want to make the point.
Do you have a sweepstake in the office, to see how close they do get?
No.
Definitely not, your worship.
I guess just
Not on 30%.
through the chair, I would caution too much weight on the engineer's estimate, and that it's not the budget, so it is really just a dart at the dartboard, and really as a refinement of that budget. So it's as Councillor Park said before, the budget still sits there and isn't related to that engineer's estimate anyway.
So, Mr Chairman, it'd be fair to say today that from 2.5 we're now down to about, 1 point? In regards
It's
to what's
100.
You get 51% back from NZTA.
Yeah, but this is
100,
this is out of the
2.1?
our renewals budget.
That's correct.
So it's not transit, is it?
Yeah, it's funded 51%
It's not
by.
even though it's in renewal, but.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, all of the transport budgets are funded 51% by NZTA except for seal extension, which is 100% by council.
Okay, so the renewals then, what's in our budget?
That's the amount in.
That's from council
No, that's the total budget.
and includes what's from transit.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so item 7, is that where we are?
Yep.
Yes, so we need to move for item 7, moved by councillor Krasowski, seconded by councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Okay. We'll do we'll do item number 8, and then I want to bring item number 12, which is the hooker zip line proposal forward, if that's okay, because we have an applicant in the house. I don't want to hold those guys up too much, so we'll do item number 8 now.
Your worship.
That's Mapara water supply.
Mapara water supply is the pump station and pipeline upgrade. There are problems experienced presently with the Mapara pump station, and that's outlined in the paper. It's for the construction of a new pump station and for about 300 or 400 300 or 400 metres of new pipeline.
Sorry.
Here, Councillor Park.
Just through the chair, on 1014 of the CEO's report under the drinking water pressure and flow and council response, there's been one complaint. So is this project of some urgency, or?
Yes, this is of some urgency.
It's just not noted that there are any complaints from that area, that's all.
That's by good management more than.
We don't complain out there.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Councillor
I just
Kostowski.
have an academic question, if I may. You say that under 8(1), under the fourth paragraph, that it will also provide significantly more capacity. Can you quantify the word significantly for me, please?
Off the top of my head, no, I can't, but I could certainly go back and get the actual numbers if you like.
Ballpark
Yes,
later on.
yep,
would
no,
be
I
fine.
can-
Thank you.
no, happy to do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Councillor Boddy.
is this a rural supply, Acacia Bay, or?
No, that it supplies it supplies the Acacia Heights. Why I hesitate, I think it goes out to Whakaroa,
Where's the initial source of the water?
Acacia Bay.
Acacia Bay, so this would be funding on the targeted rate of Acacia Bay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a mover for the Marlborough Valley? Moved by Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay, we might just bring item number 12 forward. You okay with that? I notice the applicants are in the room. So, Dennis, you're handling this one?
I would. Do you want
Actually,
to invite the applicants forward?
Yes, yeah, we'd like to applicants forward. So this is the Hooker Zipline lease proposal. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Okay, who you want to lead it off, Dennis, and introduce your.
Yes. So I'd like to introduce Rowan Sapsford. You'd all be aware of Rowan, sorry.
Simon Bottom.
Simon.
Simon.
Good afternoon.
Nice to see you, Simon, and Rowan. Welcome.
Just to clarify, I'm a resource management consultant for this, a junior role.
Yes, okay, and I see you're probably doing item 11 as well, so we might flick back to that. But
Yes.
okay, so Hooker Zipline.
I was just going to say, Your Worship, that Rowan is acting for Zipline Limited.
Right, thank you.
Right. You have before you a proposal for the zip line. If I draw your attention to page 12 bar 4, 12 bar 5. You'll see there an aerial of what is proposed. It's if members are unaware of it, it's largely a steel cable or double cable, some metres off the ground, and it creates the opportunity for people to zip along the line. I'm not doing justice to this.
Simon might be able to fill in.
A flying fox, basically.
Yeah, a flying fox. Yep. So the proposal is to have an office in the vicinity of the helicopter cafe there, and run the zip line in the road corridor to the east of Wairaki Drive, terminating in where the rest area currently is. And I think it would probably be better if you've got any specific questions on the proposal itself to direct them to Rowan or Simon.
So it runs parallel with the side of the road, basically. So, correct?
Yeah, pretty much parallel. We still haven't got our final details of our surveying yet, but it does run through the gullies, etc., and through the trees.
So it's all on council land? Yep, and classified as road reserve. Yep, cool. Councillor Krasowski?
Yes, thank you very much. A couple of questions. Firstly, sounds like something for my bucket list. So,
Sound like mine.
the first question that I have is that what is the current canopy height all along that corridor?
Well, the current canopy height would have to be sort of 30, 40 metres. I see in the proposal they've got the tower heights at 30 metres and not at 30 metres. That was basically, that would be the maximum height from the wire to the bottom of the gullies. So our tower heights are going to be around 12 metres, 30 metres.
Okay, right.
So basically all those towers right through there, the platforms will be inside the canopy of the
Right, so it won't
existing forest.
extrude over the canopy. Okay.
Yes, inside the canopy.
Yep, yep. The next question that I had was related to you say that there will be an aerial walkway connected to platforms. Is that on a wire or is it?
No, just think of a walking bridge, a wire walking bridge with timber steps inside it. They're very common all around the world with this sort of activity. It's just through one part of the gully that we're looking at from one ridge to the next ridge, just to break the tour up to keep it a bit different.
Okay, so that's another activity for the bucket plan. And my last question, if I may, is in your peak period, what would be your expected or anticipated additional bus service movements?
Well, basically, the company, the business will be operated from down the bottom of the down by the helicopter and the souvenir shop.
Yes.
And we'll be busing people backwards and forwards. We'll have buses with 10 people at a time.
Yeah.
As such, or maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
And we can do up to, hey, we want as many people as we can. We can do up to probably 400 people a day if as the business builds over the time. So basically, it'll just be our own equipment moving up there, and be no public parking up the whatsoever.
No. I was just trying to sort of look at the number of additional buses using that narrow road, and how many movements that would create, your activity would create during the peak period. That's just...
Yes. Possibly 4 an hour.
4 an hour.
Of our transport.
But that wouldn't be the large buses you're talking
No,
about?
the large buses won't be up there. It'll be our own small coaches.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Williamson.
Thanks, Simon. Just want to clarify on page 12 you've got, just before the consideration, you're seeking an exclusive lease for these sites to ensure they're able to be accessed, but just trying to get my head around the difference between a lease and a license to occupy. You'd be happy with that as well?
Oh, yes, basically that's what Dennis will be able to explain that.
Through you, Your Worship, you're not able to issue a lease for a road reserve. What you can do is issue a licence to occupy, and that's a short-term licence to occupy.
Yeah, thank you.
Chairman, could I just follow the use of the word road, and I've got the map here and it's not on the road. Should we be referring to road reserve rather than above a road? And then it mentions in 12(1) at the bottom for a temporary period. What's temporary?
In answer to the first question, in strictly legal terms, road reserve is road, irrespective of whether it's formed or not. The temporary period is something that would be up for negotiation.
Between the council and the...
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Cousins.
Just through the chair, I just wanted to say to Hocker Zipline, also Topol Zipline, sorry, very professional presentation, so thank you. And the second comment was, if you were declined here today, we've got some nice land in Turangi we'd like to put you on. We'll hook you up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions of Simon or Rowan?
One final one, and that relates to you're seeking a 30-year lease. What would be the absolute minimum that would allow you to be profitable?
Well, 29 years. Thank you, sir. Well, no, it's substantial investment for this business, but it's something that there's a gap in Taupo and the tourism department that we think it's a great thing. It's the 5th most popular excursion in the world at the moment, ziplining. It's really big. So I think I'd like, the longer the period, the better for us.
I can see Destination Great Lake Topol General Manager jumping in his seat there, rubbing another product that we can offer. So certainly, it's just a wonderful. If it comes off, it's a wonderful thing to add to our tourism industry. I would suggest. Councillor Park.
I just, I suppose, Mr. Green, around the negotiations for the licence to occupy, how do we need to define that in the resolution in regards to time frame?
My suggestion would be that you leave it to officers to negotiate with the applicants, assuming that you're happy to approve in principle, approve the activity. And as I think Councillor Krastowski said, is that there is going to be a minimum time which is economically feasible. From our perspective, I guess the shorter time, the better from we don't know what the future of the road is, but there'll be a sweet point there somewhere.
I'd be happy to move the recommended resolution 1. Thank you.
Before it's moved, I've got one question in regards of, and I've got down here market rent. What's the procedure for working out, is the rent or the licence to occupy cost as per what we would normally be charging a given area out for? How does that work?
This one's a little bit different. It hasn't been explored, and it's something that I don't have an immediate answer for you. It's something that we'd need to investigate and work out.
It's likely to include a valuation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just through the chair, I just had a question for Simon. Look, I love the idea, and it'd be on my bucket list too. I just had one question in terms of exclusive rights to this area. You mentioned like to see some exclusivity so that there aren't any other activities that might cause safety issues for what you're doing. What would you envisage that might be?
No, we did talk about this originally. I think there may be other people interested in putting some sort of walkway through there, or the plan is, I've been talking to Greening Taupo. At the moment, that whole area on the side of the road has been a dumping ground for many, many years.
Yeah,
We walk through, it's a mess. So our big plan is to clean it all up, take all the rubbish out of there. We plant thousands of native trees through there, which will bring all the birds back, which, hey, it's
Fantastic.
oysters, so the public can walk through there.
Okay,
It will
so
enhance our business.
enhance the area. Great.
Oh, totally. It's all part of it.
Good, thank you.
Exclusivity is more around the actual towers and
The towers and the buffer zones. Yeah, sure. You wouldn't want to get too close to those anyway, I imagine. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, well done, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I think it's been moved by Councillor Park. Did I have a second by Councillor Williamson? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, did you want to do item number 11? Yeah.
Going backwards.
Yes, Peter. Okay, sorry, Peter, you're straight to the hot seat. How's the boss? Just while Rowan's here, just I know you're on a very high hourly rate, Rowan, so I don't want to keep you from your...
Cheap now.
Good afternoon, Peter. Item number 11, councillors, bike topo hub proposal. Eunice.
Your Worship, direct you to page 11 bar 3. What Bike Taupo have got proposed here is to utilising the area opposite the helicopter cafe area. They'll crucify me because it's their cafe and they've got a special name for it.
Even I knew that. I don't ride a bike.
Even help the rest of us.
So that plan basically sets out in a high level what they're proposing for the area. As you would be aware, a couple of months back, council approved some funding towards the underpass under Wairaki Drive, and so that underpass would come out in the vicinity of this park, providing car parking for the area, and some trails that would enable events to be run out of here rather than up at the Craters car park, which tends to be reasonably significantly constrained in terms of space if you've been up there. And I'd then ask if you've got any questions on the proposal itself, that Rowan or Peter will be able to answer them.
Okay, any questions for Rowan or Pete?
Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Body.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. This actually mentions road reserve, so I understand that this one is not a road. Is there going to be any buildings? Unfortunately, the map's not the best. There is a dot up here. Is there any buildings going to be at that particular site?
Yes, there would be one building. I forgot to mention that. There's a toilet block proposed.
So therefore, okay, yeah, fine. Thank you.
Councillor Krastowski.
Thank you for that. A couple of questions. Number one is, the park itself, you're proposing to butt right up to the road reserves?
It's going to be on the road reserve. The whole thing's road reserve, but in respect to Separation from the actual physical road, we're going to look at that in more detail. So, if you're looking at safety issues, that's going to be one of the key considerations around design.
That was the next question as to where you plan to or propose to have your access onto the whole reserve site.
That'll probably be where the current informal access is, which is opposite the Hub Cafe.
Okay, right, okay. No further questions.
Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This is actually not the first time we've visited this proposal, and I was a fan for it then, and I am now. Since that time that the kids' pump track was put in, but everything else was sort of let go. Nothing has happened to the land. No one's come to us with any ideas, and so, I'm quite happy to move recommended resolution 1, please.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman. Great. Okay. It's been moved and seconded, and just obviously acknowledge your guys' hard work here again. Major economic driver in the community is biking, and just acknowledge your good work, and thank you for coming, Peter, today. So it's been moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Boddy. It's number 1 of the suggested resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carry. Thank you, gentlemen. Back to item number 9, I think it is. Still Dennis. You want a break, Dennis? Right, yes. Biosolids and Verma composting contract. Good afternoon, Pernell.
Good afternoon. How is everyone?
Very well.
Sorry, I just stopped you from having a break. Hope you'll bear with me on this one. So the purpose of this agenda item this afternoon is to seek your approval to award a contract to Noki Limited, who's a vermicomposting operator in New Zealand. Back in July the 5th, just as a bit of background for you, we did run a workshop with councillors to, discuss a number of the options open to us as a district around our biosolids management, mainly because there are a number of options open to New Zealand, but we wanted to talk about some of the science behind vermicomposting, because it's not so much a relatively new technology, but something that's been improved significantly over the recent years. At that particular workshop, we did discuss the fact that vermicomposting was our preferred option. And since that workshop, we've gone to tender. We ran an RFP process, and through that process, we identified our preferred supplier, and that's Noki Limited. Are there any questions on this item?
Any questions?
Just through the chair, I think Councillor Boddy and I were probably the only councillors that turned up to that, which was unfortunate. Was Noki Limited the actual company who did a presentation at that time?
Yes.
Just usually with others, when there's been a tender process, the other tenderer is named. It says that the tender evaluation and that Noki Limited is preferred, but it doesn't say who the other one was.
Yeah,
what the price tenders.
The other company was called Intercast, which was a joint venture essentially between a company called EcoCast and Intergroup.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I
apologise. It's
No,
just
that's
not
all right.
set out.
Looking for that Councillor Park too. I did find it last night about.
Yeah, sorry, it's just not. Yeah, I'm
So
used.
we got two tenders in.
Yeah, 2 compliant tenders.
They're the only tender outfit and the only people that can do this job.
Well, it was an open tender, so I guess that is the case. There's a number of vermicomposting operators, but only on very small scale.
And they've got some track record on this.
Noki Limited?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
With other councils.
absolutely. Hamilton City Council is their biggest customer at the minute, but they have a number of private sector, Fonterra, Landcorp, and they've just started to go into the Asian market as well.
Hamilton's the only other city council.
No, they also have. Yes, that's correct.
Chair.
Councillor Williamson?
Through the chair. Thank you. Just with regard, I just want to just note with the land application method has obviously been very successful, isn't it?
Yes.
And obviously, I think it's nationally regarded as pretty much pioneer stuff. I know there's one down the Rolleston as well. A friend of mine is into that sort of field. So obviously, if you're coming up with the option 3, vermicomposting, I must feel it's obviously a lot better option.
I think what it does is it minimises the risk that you potentially have a product. I guess what vermicomposting does is it gives you the options to apply the output or the vermicast on a much broader variety. So you could do it on greens, golf courses, parks and reserves. Whereas with land application, because you have to apply for a resource consent to apply it, you're constrained as to where you can actually apply it. Also, you'll note in this particular example, we'll need to pay a fairly large upfront capital cost to continue with land application as we have done before.
Okay.
Need to clarify for councillors though, just following on from that question, we're not talking about stopping the irrigation of the farmers, just the biosolids. That's right, yeah. So it deals with that. Yeah.
Well, you think
Currently a
it's
waste stream going to landfill, which this will change.
Just a technical question, and I apologise for not having attended that meeting. Is there any history of biodiversity mishaps because of using this particular technology?
Because of using vermicomposting? Not that I'm aware of in the New Zealand environment. I think there's probably a lot more regulation here in this particular area, but I don't know, to be honest. Do you mean like the sorts of scenarios you might have with a settling pond? In terms of botulism and things?
Yes, that among other things.
Right.
Sorry, and just in the recommended resolution, the 1.4 wouldn't happen to be inclusive of GST, would it? It doesn't state either or.
No. Okay, it'd be excluding.
Yeah, it's always good if it was including, but never mind.
Through the chair, I had a couple of questions, please. Thank you. I note that the vermicomposting option requires an increase in the targeted rate moving forward, not for this financial, but for the next one. It's about $15 a household, is that right? What I'm struggling to understand, and maybe it's me with my numbers, it's actually a lower cost option, vermicomposting, than it is with landfill. So how come we've got an increase in targeted rate? I'm sure you've got an answer, Mr. Ward, but I did notice.
Well noticed. Excuse me. I guess is, gosh, currently we are disposing of the biosolids to landfill at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we have done that for this when the contract ended with the existing land disposal method. We have just done that on a kind of a cost neutral rate to deal with the issue prior to coming up with a long-term solution.
So you mean cost neutral, we weren't charging ourselves?
That's right, because it's an internal transaction effectively between left hand, right hand. So to get through this kind of transitional period, we've just kept that at effectively a cost neutral rate. But then going in the future, we need to fully cost that to the appropriate areas, which is why you're seeing an increase there.
Okay, thank you. Another couple of questions for me to you. I note that the operation will require some resource consents, which we won't be applying for, they will be. What sort of resource consents will they be needing to seek?
I think it's...
Apart from the obvious earth moving type.
Well, it's through to the Waikato Regional Council through Barry Campbell, and he's been quite au fait with dealing with Noki Limited before, and it's just to cover the operation, the vermicomposting operation on our land.
Sure. What about water take? Because don't they have to irrigate and keep these worms wet? Isn't that how it works? No?
There needs to be access to water, it's my understanding, but not to irrigate the worms. Okay. That's just for ablutions in the, in the set-up area.
And there is water up at the View Road farm for that.
Sure. I asked the question, I was just conscious that we've got the Healthy River Plan change, we've got the lake protection, we've got nitrogen cap, we've got all sorts of regulatory requirements would want to make sure. And the other one was in terms of assessment of environmental effects, odour's the biggest issue, is that correct?
Of vermicomposting. That's certainly something that's come up prior in their operations, where you're in an operation relatively close to a residential area. But it appears that through their management, through their technology and the innovative way that they mix, there's certain things you can do in the summer period when it could be more of an issue to reduce the odour.
So we have sensitive areas like residential areas around this proposal, no?
Yes. This is one.
This is the View Road
View
farm.
Road,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's surrounded by rural farmland.
Sure. Just wanting to check what's...
Motorsport park, reasonably close.
And I guess clarifying on that, prior to going to landfill, this biosolids used to go to a big pit there, so it's a established activity in that location.
I just wouldn't want to cause unintended consequences from odour. Odour is a very difficult one to manage and mitigate.
Understandable.
A couple of residential.
There's two houses, I think, within, a kilometre of the operation.
But we manage that on a daily basis for the existing operation.
Sure. In this company, worms like to be kept warm. I did a little bit of research, it's like 15 degrees to 27 degrees. Have we ever done worm farming like this in a colder climate like ours?
They're currently operating a very successful worm farm in Tokoroa.
You reckon it's colder there?
Often Tokoroa is a lot colder than what we are.
How long's that farm been operating? Because
For a number of years, I'm not sure how many years.
and it's of a similar scale and size to what we're proposing?
Much bigger, yeah, much bigger.
Okay.
That's where all of the Hamilton City biosolids go to.
I think what they've said in terms of what occurs over the winter period is that the worms actually go lower into the soil and they cease to operate a little bit, not so much activity occurs.
And just a final question from me at the moment. If we choose this way of just, recycling our biosolids, what impact will that have on our landfill in terms of meeting our obligations to reduce our waste there?
It would improve that situation markedly.
Markedly,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
I suppose just following on Councillor Jolland, what happens if it doesn't work? Money back guarantee? If it's not right, you'll put it right? Do we have any guarantees?
Well, we'll obviously, as part of the contract that we will sign once this endorsement goes through, there'll be a certain level of service level agreements, significant amounts of testing. They'll be responsible for reporting back on their resource consent, as we will on the operations at View Road. I think, whilst it's very easy to kill worms, these guys are the best in the business in terms of knowledge of that particular area. It's just about the people.
Both.
They've interviewed the worms. I think they're dealing with the Hamilton City stuff, which is something in the order of 10,000 cubes a year. So we're a little bit smaller on that scale.
I just picking up on Councillor Jolland's a very good point that our ground temperatures are a lot lower than theirs. So
The Hamilton product actually gets taken to Kinleith, to that Tokoroa area, and Kinleith, the product from Kinleith gets taken down. So it's not actually managed in Hamilton.
In addition to that as well, we've actually also already run a trial operation with our biosolids to ensure that the recipe mix works, and I can't remember the length of that trial, but the results were very good.
It's from Christmas through till July.
very good. Okay, Councillor Cousins.
Just through the chair, just on what you said, David, and also Councillor Jolland, just about the environmental impact, in regards to smell, etc. Is there any risk to council? I mean, here I say it, Bernard's devil's advocate. And should we be consulting with the public on this? I mean, considering that there are some environmental impacts that we should be concerned about.
There's a consultation process as part of the application for resource consent that Noki Limited undertake.
Secondly, and finally, there's no way that these worms, if a pair of them got into the river, they can't breathe.
Oh, no.
They're big worms, but they're not as big as
So
carp.
you're saying you would have preferred carp?
Just to take councillor Cousins' comments, so would this be a limited notification in terms of resource consents by Noki Limited?
That would be over to Waikato Regional Council.
I just know, I'm just thinking of mushroom farms in the Hawke's Bay and all sorts of other things. I'm just conscious of.
Yeah, they would be able to have Waikato Regional Council planning officers to undertake an assessment of the significance of effects, and they wouldn't be able to tell us that until they have an application in front of them.
I just think we probably have a duty of care just to make sure we're comfortable as well.
It was the mushrooms in Hawke's Bay, was it?
Smell it, yeah. All sorts of problems down there.
Councillor
Smelly
Boddy?
mushroom farms.
Yeah, Mr Chairman, I do have a few questions on the item 9, and we are on 9 up, Mr Chairman.
No.
Number 9, there's comments made about
What page?
9.
9.
It's the one after 8, no?
Yeah, on page 9.
It makes a comment here that a local contractor was putting it on their land after it'd gone through the process. Did anyone go out and find any other contractors that would have taken over from that particular person? So the system would run as it is now?
That contractor had a specific resource consent to apply it to land. Essentially, he's a farmer, and so any farmers would require a specific consent to apply biosolids to land, and there are issues relating to withholding that land if you're intending to use it for dairy stock.
Cows,
Yeah,
was anyone approached?
no.
Thank you. Further down the page, we're talking about the impact on the rates of $15 per connection. That'd be right across the district. And I think you're talking here about a 2% increase.
Correct. The impact on the targeted wastewater rate is 2%, which equates to $15. That is correct, and that's district-wide.
In the wastewater renewals, that can't be used particularly if we're looking for option 2 in regards of the capital cost of that shed.
No, renewals is to renew existing assets. If we were to build the new shed on that, that's a new asset, so that would have to be loan funded.
Okay, I'm just going to find the exact. On 9(3), it states that under the advantages of option 2, which is the land application, its land application dilutes the toxins and heavy metals traditionally associated with raw biosolids. And yet on 9(2), at the bottom of 9(2), it says a resource consent is required to be able to apply biosolids directly to land due to the elevated heavy metals contained in the biosolids, and yet that previous statement says something slightly different.
No, they're not in disagreement. You're required to have a resource consent to apply biosolids to land. In the process of applying the biosolids to land, you are reducing the impact of those heavy metals by mixing it with soil. So they're not mutually exclusive.
Okay. Well, then can we come back to what I just raised before Mr. Ward answered it, that 9(3), when it talks about the pit already exists, but requires a covering shed or covering/open shed at a cost of approximately $720. Then under the disadvantages, it talks about the maturation pit at View Road would require work to meet the requirements under the resource consent at an estimated cost of approximately $720. What are we talking about? A resource consent for $720 or a roof over a shed?
We're talking about a roof over a shed that would be required to meet consent conditions.
Has anyone done any plans, sketches, drafts of what that shed would entail?
Yes, that's the basis of that $720,000.
Is there a reason that we haven't got that in front of us? Because $720,000, you can just about build 2 houses. I'm just wondering why it's so expensive.
The roof,
I can do a very big roof, but I guarantee to do it for less.
the roof needs to be movable because you need to be able to get machinery like a loader or something of that nature in to remove the biosolids. So just the size and the structure results in that sort of cost.
We used to have silage pits like that with trailway runners and the tin roof. It's one of these things that I've made a comment in our meeting this morning, is the fact that often I find gaps in agenda items which I find hard to actually follow. particularly when we're looking at the costs that we are.
So is that sketch or whatever, that plan available to council body?
Needs to be, yes.
It will be available when? When would the sketch be available?
You've got it now? Have you got the sketch or?
I haven't got it immediately available on me.
No, but just at some stage of it, seen to it.
That'll be after the agenda item's been finished with.
Do you want it or not?
Well, it's going to be too late if the agenda item's passed, isn't it?
Don't worry about it.
One last question from me, thank you, if
Councillor
that's
Jollins.
okay. When Noki Limited did their assessment, obviously for the tender, did they go through any analysis on risks of failure? Because often these sorts of projects, they do look if there's a high or a medium risk of failure. Did they do any sort of qualitative assessment on that, or the risks of contamination of the vermicompost, depending on what you're mixing it with? And did they cover that off?
There's a number of risks identified in the agenda item, and they were developed in consultation with Noki Limited. They provided us with some, area of expertise. In terms of the risk of contamination,
Sorry, the only, what risks were they in the paper?
9/5,
9/5. Yep, so there's environmental risks, process risks, business risks, etc. In terms of the contamination issue, I guess the process that they went by, where they took 2 samples from the wastewater treatment plant, and they took them away with them, and over a period of, I think it was December through to July, they did some testing on that product, because obviously the district's biosolids is unique. And there's also...
Such tactfully put, yes.
All the Indian restaurants.
It's even unique between a Monday and a Friday sample. So they took those samples away and they did some tests on them to compare against the other municipal biosolids that they manage. And we were provided with those results. And it was interesting because, and I think we had a discussion, Councillor Boddy and I, at the workshop just recently, around the fact that we believed that we had potentially higher arsenic than we, based on some of the understanding we had of our own biosolids, but yet compared to Hamilton, ours was quite a lot lower. But there were other heavy metals that came up. So through that process, I guess they gave us a list of several different mixing products that they could use to manage the dilution and also to ensure that the worms were the most happy.
Okay, all right, no, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Park.
Thank you. I just wanted to, Mr. Fox, when we had a workshop on this, a presentation was done by Noki Limited. This then went out for tenders for a 2-week process in which we got 2, and Noki have got it. Do you feel from a risk management perspective that this due diligence has been done on this procurement process? Because
2 weeks, is it?
we got a really great presentation, and I have trust in this company, but I just wonder if it's been as transparent as possible, because from a risk management perspective, it being pre-election period, I just feel a little uneasy, and I just wonder from your risk management perspective if you could help me.
I think the research that's gone into this particular agenda item before you is probably one of the more thorough ones, in my view. You've had a workshop that some of you attended. There's been a lot of, as Danielle's talked about, discussions with officers and the company. Are you talking about the tenure of the time frame for the procurement, particularly, Anna? Or?
Just the fact that it was that company that presented to us, and then there was a short tender process, and then it was
just clarify that. Sorry to interrupt.
11th of July to the 27th of July. If that's normal, that's great. I just want to seek assurances before going forward to vote on the item.
Will be a 6-week tender period normally.
I'm actually for the project. I'm just wondering
are
about
those timeframes
transparency.
correct? So it was only 2 weeks from the tender being requested?
16 days.
16 days, yeah. Yes, that is correct. I guess part of that was because of the process that we'd gone through up to that point. We had a fairly good understanding of the market. I guess we were surprised to see only 2 operators being able to operate at that level or be interested perhaps in responding to our tender. We also felt that given the timeframes that we were required to meet to ensure that we could bring this to you within the appropriate timeframe so that you had adequate time to decide, because we've been working on this, I guess, since the end of last year when the previous operator ceased to provide that, we felt that that was adequate time for operators in that market to respond to our needs, being a small, municipal biosolids provider as we are.
Just if I can just follow on from that, Penel, did anybody else contact us and ask for information or suggest that the timeframe was too short?
No.
They might not have seen it advertised though. So I sense a bit of nervousness around the table with some of the councillors. So I suppose you've got to test your resolution.
So just through the chair, I'm quite comfortable if I can be, if management is comfortable that this is being done appropriately.
Can I just ask Mr. Lewis, perhaps, and I notice you're very senior engineers in the background there, so you've got full support within your team, within your engineering team for this proposal?
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Jim, just on a positive, sorry, John, you go first.
Yeah, through the chair, I'm sorry I missed that workshop. Just backtracking a wee bit, obviously New Zealand is 62% of all biosolids go to landfill compared to Australia. I know that you haven't got a crystal ball, but is there any estimates or any calculations to, or any other situation around the country or where you can estimate it will be reduced to from that? Obviously Australia is 15%, that's difference of environment, but is there any estimate or any guesstimate of?
Do you mean, do we have an estimate on what the total amount of municipal biosolids going to landfill would be in the future? Well, I guess the central government has a view because they are applying an ETS, the emissions trading scheme levy on everything that goes to landfill from January of next year, and that was brought forward from 2019. And I know there are a number of councils, such as Queenstown Lakes, who are looking at performing a vermicomposting operation just to get stuff out of landfill.
Yes.
So it'd be great to have a target like Europe, for example, but I think it will take time, predominantly for the reasons that I outlined in the presentation, which is it's cheap to stick it in landfill in New Zealand. It's super cheap. It's not €500 a tonne. We've got lots of free land. We're not overpopulated. Some councils are still putting it out to sea. So, until I guess the compliance and regulations cracks down, there's still that option.
Yeah, thank you.
Chair, what about mixing with lime? I didn't see that as being an option here. As apparently the most cheap and most efficient and environmentally friendly way of disposing of biosolids, I understand. In America, it's quite big business.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard of that as an option in the New Zealand market.
It becomes a sweetener of the product in the ground. Just on a positive note then, from what I've heard today, by going this way, we open up our market for this product greater than what we've got now with the spraying of View Road. Would that be correct? Yeah. So therefore we can expect a greater return, because if it's put on pasture for hay and silage for dairy cows, it can be used, where what we've got now can't.
There's been some research, although there's not enough detailed analysis into the different crops, into the application of vermicompost on crops such as lucerne and ryegrass by comparison to simple land application of biosolids. And that research suggests that it is an increase in growth, but the exact percentage is unknown. I don't think we can bank on any more, but I think it's safe to say it's as good.
Heavier crops, but unknown at the moment.
All right, I think we've probably canvassed. Of course, Miraka are the leaders in this. They've got their own vermicomposting, what is it? Vermicomposting, whatever it's called, operation there, as it were now, isn't it? So, okay, so do I sense a bit of happiness around the questions? Obviously, the contract will be, fairly watertight as per the questions that we've asked. The thing doesn't work.
We'll get Nigel right onto it.
Yes, yeah, good. All right, we've got a suggested resolution there, have we? Thank you, Pernell, and thank you, Dennis, for your item here today. So do I have a mover for this resolution? Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by, Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Christowski. Anyone want to speak against the resolution? No, I'll move it then. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks very much, Pernell and Dennis. Right, item number 10, Mr Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given that Mr Lewis has been sitting in the hot seat, I've half a mind to ask him to present my report as well, but I won't. Obviously, this month there's been a couple of major issues for us. One was the snow event out at the Rangitikei Plains a couple of weeks ago. I think it's fair to say that event wasn't unexpected at the time, but the severity of it probably took a few people by surprise.
Yes, I'll interrupt you again. We have a resident from the Rangitikei there. Sorry, your name just escapes me? Christina. Christina is, just tell us quickly what you're doing, Christina. She's obviously a large farming organisation out there as well. Christina's... Yeah, what are you're doing a study for New Zealand government? Is that? Right. Okay, sorry to...
No problem.
Christina's obviously a resident. Nice to see. Have you got the power back on, Christina? Still on generators. Okay. All right. Hopefully it's getting back to normal slowly, but good to see you here. Okay.
So obviously that event was quite significant for us. Our emergency management team and others worked quite closely with other providers such as Unison on that event. I think need to acknowledge Unison. They did go out of their way and worked very hard through that process to try and get temporary power back to as many people as quickly as possible. Obviously with the assistance of council officers. So that was a significant event for us. We had several road closures and other issues as well over that weekend. Following on from that, the week after, obviously, Havelock North had their issues in terms of water supply, which has been hot in the news. That is still in the process of being investigated as to the exact cause of that. We have had our engineering team look at our water supplies to give us some sense of comfort that the same sort of thing can't happen here. And I can let you know that all of our water supplies are dosed with chlorine, which would stop the same thing occurring that occurred in Havelock North. There are a few minor little things which we're working on, and I guess this is another example of projects like the Waitanui water supply that you approved with the annual plan. The reason why we put this sort of project forward is to comply with the drinking water standards, is to avoid just the sort of thing happening that's happened in Havelock North, unfortunately. It will be a place to keep watching over the coming months as the investigation that the government has commissioned in conjunction with Hastings District continues. I think it's fair to say that the timing was rather unfortunate. You never want this sort of thing to happen, but the timing alongside the local government reform bill was unfortunate, given the focus of that bill talking through council-controlled organisations and the abilities of council to provide safe drinking water. So watch this space and let's see what comes out of that investigation. The last comment there in terms of emergency matters of risks is this: we've made a point there about some issues that we've seen down at Spa Park in terms of some antisocial behaviour, which we're working on with increased patrols and CCTV camera footage. Other than that, Mr Chairman, I'll take the report as read. There are obviously the service report that follows and the financials, and we've got the team here who can answer any specific questions that you may have on any of those projects.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Green. Any questions of Mr. Green?
Chairman, the
Councillor Boddy.
observations. Mr. Green, is this report like the project performance and capital expenditure to the end of June?
Yes.
Just ask the question, when I was going through and it may well have been taken care of as completed jobs, when I was going through the capital expenditure projects, a number that we've had up to our last agenda, which I think was in June, contained things such as Bonshaw Park water, etc. A lot of them have gone. I'm wondering whether they've been completed, because I thought they might have rolled over to this year.
So they will have, and I probably answered you wrong on that last question. If you look at page 10 under summary.
10, that's straight 10.
That's right. So so this covers the period, the first period under the new annual plan through to July, end of July. So it's that first month. So the projects that had been completed in that previous annual plan period won't be appearing in this new report.
Bonshaw Park's still sticking out there, isn't it? As well.
The bow wave is still being determined, and the bow wave capital projects will form part of that. So the bow wave being the incomplete projects, or some of them haven't even started, will appear in the future ones once we get through the year end.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Park.
I just noticed that the smoke-free signage for playgrounds has come off. Has that been completed?
It's been completed.
Great, thank you.
Councillors.
Through the chair, just on page 10/6, the wastewater for Turangi wastewater. It's on hold, but is there a time frame for that? Is there a time frame?
Unfortunately, we don't have a time frame. That project's relying on the material being dredged out of the Tukanu Channel, and we're reliant on when that dredging can take place. We're expecting it to be this summer that the harbour master will continue with that project, and then once we get the material, then we can move forward with our project.
On page 10/12, a question about licensing, because I know there's a new Health Food Act coming into play. How are we coping now? Are we getting all our food licenses out for these establishments, or are we still struggling?
Yes, we've been down on resourcing, so we've tapped into some external parties to assist. Our resourcing will soon be up to speed, but I've said we'll continue using the external resource until we're 100% comfortable that all the premises have been properly licensed.
Thank you, Alan. On page 10/18, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's about swimming pool. Should we take GTAC out now, because it's not called GTAC anymore? Yeah, it's like it's been there a year now. And last but not least, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but 10/20 under community facilities, it says at least 50 sport and community events are held on sports grounds each year, but it's got 5 events in July, which is year to date equals 4, year to date equals 5. I don't know what that means.
I understand that that's the year-to-date is the target, so if you basically take the 50 divided and then that's the expected amount for year-to-date target.
Okay, so we happened to have 5 this year, and we've done 5 in July, which was our target. Is that what we're saying?
Target's, no,
So the
target's
target was
50.
4.
Oh, sorry, right.
Yeah.
Target for the year's 50, target for the month therefore is
Is
4,
4.
and we did 5.
We did 5. Yeah, so we
Year to
exceeded
date
over
total
target.
equals 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's
The first month of the year.
Thank you.
A couple of questions through the chair to Mr. Green, please. In terms of, on page 10/2, you talk about the potential of a regional bylaw for solid waste. Do you have any idea on timings for that at all, Mr. Green?
Look to the back of the room to Dennis.
Not at this stage, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's just an idea that's being muted.
It's still a work in progress.
Work in progress, okay. And Mr. Green, we saw some draft benchmarks from the DIA a couple of months ago. Where are we at with those results coming out, please?
So you're talking about the My Council snapshots. So they have, the DIA have agreed to work with the sector again. So so with Local Government New Zealand and SOLGAM, that's continuing at the moment, and there's no set date for the release of those standards.
So what's the delay? Just consultation with councils and so on?
Consultation, but and mainly around the wording of the standards and the information that's been provided, and the worth of the standards and the way that they've been written.
Okay, all right. Because I would have thought the benchmarks were reasonably standard.
No, this is the first time that benchmarks of that nature have been done, and they were done without consultation of the sector, and the sector's consensus is that they don't represent they aren't a good measure of what success looks like for the sector.
Okay, and just the last final question, in emerging risks, you identified that we've had increased criminal activity in Spa Road.
Spa Park.
Spa Park, sorry. Is there any correlation between us closing Reed's Farm and this happening with tourists down that way?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so?
No, it's not.
Different?
It's not nighttime use. It's the daytime use, particularly at the hot water stream.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I feel awful today, all these little questions. On tab 9 under emergency management with the Waikato Region Civil Defence Group Emergency Management Plan, it's actually proposed, it's not adopted full plan, it's the adoption of the proposed. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Krasowski.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, under regulatory services, the top 10 holiday park, is that a publicly notified resource consent application, or?
Don't believe that decision's been made yet, but it is likely, yes.
Quite a significant change.
Correct.
Thank you.
Chairman, I know it's not on the agenda, but I marked it down under resource consent. I see there's a notable tree to be removed at the harbour. Because it's a notable tree, would there be a full resource hearing?
There'll be a resource consent, but again, whether or not it's publicly notified will depend on the assessment undertaken by the planners at the time.
Well, I certainly wait the outcome with anticipation, because there's a couple of gum trees I'm looking at the moment that need to go. Just while I'm
Just I'd like to finish off that one. The report undertaken by the arborist, an independent arborist in this situation, has identified that tree is at risk of failing. So this is the one right by the toilet block there, and so therefore that's why it has to go through a consent process to get removed.
That's exactly what's wrong with those gum trees.
The assessment on the gum trees isn't that they're failing, is the difference.
Just as it's a formatting thing. When I was going through the various areas, I couldn't find the Great Lakes Centre, but I was delighted to find under 10 bar 19, it's under public toilets. I think the Great Lakes Centre needs its own section, if you have a look. Just, yeah. I should have told you rather than bring it up.
It was on Friday night.
At times, yeah.
All right.
Oh, just last one. Sorry, I'm on a roll. Just a matter arising for Mr. Green. Could you let us know what happened with the Tri-Vent sculpture that we were looking at? Where did that end up?
Yep. So John, at your request, went to the Sculpture Trust for their view. John, what were they?
Yeah, I was going to bring that back to the next council meeting actually, because their view was it didn't fulfil the criteria that the trust was set up for, which was renowned New Zealand artists and of a certain quality.
But that wouldn't stop us from considering it in the future.
Right. So I was going to bring that back to the next council meeting because I think that was left in the air.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I wasn't sure. So next council meeting.
There'll be an agenda item on that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Holy was not impressed that we referred it to the Sculpture Trust, because he said it's none of their business. I think he was correct.
Yes, Councillor
I have another question, if I may, and that relates to 10 bar 46. Under other capital subsidies and grants, there seems to have been a quite significant downturn of about $2 million on that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything in the notes to tell me why or how.
Okay, if you look at the financials, the 2125 was the subsidy for the Waitanui water scheme, which didn't proceed. But while you're looking at the financials, if you look at in 1045, the operating surplus shows a deficit in comparison to budget. But if you actually look at the areas that make up the manageable part of that, being 1A, 1B, and number 2 down to the 27149, the actual performance, because all the rest of it's made up of revaluations of assets and things of that nature, the actual performance is over 3 million better than budget. Just that the way, when we bring in the revaluation of assets and all that, it makes it look negative, but in fact, performance of council in that particular financial year, led by governance and implemented by management, has produced a very favourable result. 3 million better than budget.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions?
That's a when I saw you.
Okay, suggested resolution there on 10(3), information to be received. Thank you, Mr. Green. Your first full report is second. Second. CEO, so start. Moved by Councillor Krastowski, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right, we'll go to item number 13. Proposed amendments to the Grants and Partnership Policy 2015. Tina.
So this is brought to you at a request from Wairua Community Trust. They wanted council to review a couple of areas in terms of the grants and partnerships policy. And so, excuse me, one of them was around the criteria for salaries. And there had been a number of comments from users up at Wairua House that this would prove quite difficult, as most of those organisations are reliant on salaries. So the request from them is that consider putting in a transition clause to align with when we look at the new partnership agreement, and then those organisations can apply after the long-term plan to that partnership agreement and for their ongoing salaries. The second one was just in relation to the open forums, and again wanting to align that with the LTP 2018. But I think, as I've stated there, we've already started this financial year, and some organisations have already done that open forum process. So I don't believe that it should be different for another organisation, because we have already started that.
Thanks, Tina. Thank you. Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you. I'm actually quite happy to move this recommended resolution. I've spent time with neighbourhood support down at the police station a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. They were sort of quite hamstrung on what they were going to do and under a bit of misinformation about where they could go. And I just think for substantial community groups that do such a great job, and I mean, they run off 53k a year and they have over 540 volunteers, that we sort of, I think we've sort of got an obligation to keep those sort of networks going. So on that basis, I'm happy to move it.
Thank you, Councillor Park.
Yeah, through the chair to speak to this in support of the recommendation as well. Having talked to some of the Wairua House tenants and also to some of the organisations that are in our community delivering vital services, such as the one that Councillor Park has mentioned, they are relying on the grants in terms of wages and salaries, and it will be difficult for them. And I guess the opportunity is when they come back to the partnership arrangement. So I would support this resolution as well.
Okay. All right. We moved. Are you happy to second that, Councillor Johns?
Yes.
Yep. Moved and seconded. Thank you, Tina. Appreciate that, and thank you for bringing that to us. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 14, council engagements.
Just just need a couple of councillors or a councillor for the Zone 2 meeting to be hosted in Whakatane in September. There's no changes to the engagements at the moment, although we will be looking at doing a little debrief for Turingi Community Board on the morning of their meeting on the 13th, so speaking with the chair.
Okay, can anyone go to Whakatane?
Just a question, do we have a draft agenda yet for Zone 2?
Yeah.
Too early?
Do you want to see that before you say yes?
Yeah, I'd quite like to see what's on the agenda before.
When the airport travels.
Yeah.
Perhaps, is it,
You can just put the names in, and if you don't go, that's fine.
so Councillor Park, it's exciting enough?
Well, not necessarily that, Your Worship, it's whether time out of the district at this time of the year was warranted by the agenda.
Does anyone else want to go? Councillor Cousins, go. Good. Greg? It's an overnighter. Okay, I don't think there appear to be too many takers on that one, Tina, unfortunately, but if anyone wants to come, it's a day's travel, isn't it? So,
Always do retrospective leave necessary.
yeah, it is. I did, because they wanted us to chair it here, and I said that it was a difficult time. So I thought they were going to can the meeting completely. So, but anyway. Okay, so we'll just move number 1. Been received at this stage. Moved by Councillor Harvey, seconded by Councillor Jollins. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Members' reports. Tina, this is my report on the local government conference. I'll put a report on there on the local government conference that was attended in Dunedin. Got hard copies if anyone wants to, any more details on what I went to. Anyone's got any verbal reports? Councillor Christowski.
I'll just very briefly talk about the select committee hearing that Ariel and I attended. I've all circulated you my speech. I felt a little bit deflated and disappointed with the interaction, shall we call it, with the select committee. Some of them who were on their mobile phones texting busily away, others who didn't turn up, and some who even walked out while you're making submissions. Not a good look, and I hope that we as a council do not do that to our submitters as such. The subject as such, the actual contents of my submission apparently was one that set the scene and was spoken to a number of times by previous submitters as well as submitters afterwards. But the select committee, I think, I got the feeling that they very much have their mind set on where they want to go, what they want to achieve. As Gareth Green said earlier, the occurrence of Hawke's Bay, I don't believe helped the cause of democracy. And the questions most frequently asked was to developers rather than about councils and how they see grassroots democracy being preserved. So in the future, perhaps somebody else can go there instead of me and say the spiel about democracy. But I hope that some points were taken on board, and I look forward to any amendments, if any. Yeah.
Who was the chair of the select committee?
Yes.
Yes.
A national guy. Forget his name. Yeah,
it's disappointing.
It was disappointing.
And thank you for going. I really appreciate. I realised it was a day out of the system, which is yeah. So really appreciate that. It's quite it is quite frustrating, and I'd like to think that we're a lot more courteous than that.
Through the chair, having acknowledged what the council just said, would want to pass on that I've received very complimentary feedback about the presentation that you did do. So well done.
from the select committee.
Yes.
And thanks, Berta, for the update.
Thanks for waving the flag, so
Just to let you know, because of my disappointment, I had Louise Upston up on Friday night, and I told her about my disappointment, and she tells me that she will look into the matter. So, who knows?
Okay. Any other verbal? Councillor Hickling.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just need to report to Council that the Land Transport Committee have started the review of the long-term plan. There's been 2 workshops. We identified network and freight, the economy impacts on funding, Auckland's issues, public transport, safety, technology, access and tourism. At the last workshop, we consolidated those down to 4 topics. That was the network, public transport, safety and technology. There's a further meeting next Monday, which I'll be attending. So it's the start of the review of the long-term plan for road transport, Your Worship. Thank you.
Mr Chairman, can I ask Councillor Hickling, does that follow up from the presentation we had here? In regards of the Waikato?
No, that incorporates into this long-term plan. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, suggested resolution there. I have a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Okay, that's the end of the public part of the meeting. Thank you very much. And there's a resolution to exclude the public. Good to see you, Christina. Catch you later. See you, Matt. I have a mover for the resolution, please. Moved by Councillor Cousins, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Is everyone happy just to carry on because it's basically a...
There is quite a bit of a time lag today. But you've got a couple of minutes to catch up. So.
Are we not using the most modern technology there or something?